pledge allegiance. Okay, let the record show that all board members are present and in attendance. And before we begin, I do have a formal statement to make on behalf of the Board of Education. And that is that the Board of Education is deeply troubled by the recent incident involving students from our school after the boys' varsity basketball game. For lack of better terms, we're embarrassed. Behavior is not reflective of the values that we strive to instill in our students, and it's completely unacceptable. I want to make it clear that we do not tolerate any form of discrimination, hate speech, or bullying in our school district. We are committed to creating a safe and inclusive environment where all students, staff, and community members feel respected, valued, and supported, as well as those who visit West Islip. We take this incident very seriously. The high school administration team has conducted a thorough investigation to determine the appropriate course of action. We will continue to work closely with our staff, students, parents, and the community to address this issue and ensure that it does not happen again. It's important for all of us to remember that we must celebrate and embrace all differences rather than use them as a source of division. It's my hope that our community is not judged on the action of a few, but more on how we respond, handle, and move forward. The community I know and proud to live in is one that comes together when tragedy, misfortune, and flat-out mistakes take place. We've always put the needs of others first, and I've seen this happen time and time again. With that being said, I would like to not only apologize to the Patchogue Bedford community, but extend my sincerest gratitude to their superintendent of schools, Dr. Donna Jones, for the class and respect she's demonstrated towards West Islip throughout this ordeal. I want to ensure that everyone who's invested in West Islip, that we are better than this. And based on the many conversations I've had with friends, neighbors, and community members, I'm not alone in this belief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. And I know that the community received my letter on this topic, which is also posted on our website if you'd like to read the full thing. But I will just say briefly that racism has no place in our society. And in my conversations with students, staff, and parents this week, this is not only a situation that misrepresents our community as a whole, but there's a desire out there to do better and to be better and to come together and make sure that nothing like this happens again, and I know that we will. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Romanelli. I would like to turn the floor over to one of our student reps tonight, Ms. Kristen Williams. Oh, and Ms. Taylor Riley is here, so if you guys could come on up.
Everyone, we are speaking for the student body tonight. First, we would like to address that we are having our annual Christmas party next Friday for children with special needs within the district. We are looking forward to this event. And Kristen.
So this past week we had 2 concerts at our school. Me and Taylor were both in orchestra, and they both went very good. I've heard. I didn't go to the band one, but I know some people there, and it was very good.
Next, we would just like to talk about the removal of SUPA and AP classes that we've heard circulating throughout the school. A lot of students are not happy with this decision. Personally speaking, well, Chris and I are both in IB Bio. I'm in IB Psych. We do have some representatives that are in the IB program that would like to speak tonight. We just believe that IB is such a program for specific students. It's mainly based on memorization, in our opinion. I do have friends in the IB program who regret their decision and believe that they weren't properly informed of, what it entailed. For some people, it is very successful, and we do understand the argument where you guys are coming from on just having the IB, because most schools are not both AP and IB, but we just believe that AP classes are better suited for a majority of the students. And also by being in the IB program, you're kind of stuck with the same kids. I do have more friends that are that are with the same students over and over again, and they have been getting frustrated that they aren't with their friends or haven't been able to make more connections with their peers.
And so I know I'm only in one IB class, but I struggle in that class, and I try to do better. But a student, I believe every student should be a well-rounded student, be involved in everything, and I am involved in everything. And I struggle with time management because of this IB class. Like, the curriculum is genuinely hard. I believe it should be changed to make it a little bit easier, but but it is hard to be in the program. 6 IB classes is crazy, and some people, like Taylor said, some people are doing very good in it, but you have to be a certain type of student to be able to excel. So to talk about my friend who really does good in the IB program, my friend Alex Martorella is going to speak.
Hi, my name is Alex Martorella. I'm a senior in the IB program. And being in the program for nearly a year and a half now, I can say that it's definitely successful in prepping students for college and challenging them. But I also think that it's very specific to certain students. It's very focused on writing skills, and there's definitely a lot of memorization involved. And I think it's more difficult to succeed and get the kind of competitive grades that we as students are looking for when it comes to college admissions in IB courses rather than AP courses. I've been in both, and now I'm only in the program, and I think that's definitely a lot more difficult. But of course, not to say that IB is not effective, because I certainly strive in the program. It's challenged me to become the student that I am, but I'm also in the program with 8 other seniors right now, and I know a bunch of them struggle, and a bunch of them just in their junior year alone have gotten grades that have tanked their GPA a lot. And it's not necessarily that the program isn't effective, it's just that it's not right for them. So that's why I think it's necessary to have the options. So AP might be better suited for them, whereas IB may be more suited for me and other students. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Obviously, we're in the discussion stage of that, and we're taking notes on what you're saying. We'll bring that to the discussion table and consider everything that you guys said. So thank you so much for your time being here tonight. It's also come to my attention. Oh, gee, I'm going to talk. Sorry.
Sorry. My name is Shirdana Lafamina. I'm heavily involved in both the art and music programs. Here at the high school, I'm a senior. And I have taken an IB course last year. It personally didn't work for me. It was definitely difficult for me, the way of learning, again, heavily writing-based, like Alex said. And I just want to talk about, with the removal of AP classes, would be the removal of AP Art, which, although it is a very hard course, it is something that prepares students who want to pursue fine arts in college. It helps them work on building a portfolio and all the inner workings that comes with that. With IB Art, it is a lot more research-based, focuses on art history, and the students don't get to apply their talent and skills as much as they would with AP Art. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there from the perspective of an art student. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's also come to my attention that we do have several other high school students that are here tonight to advocate on a certain topic. I would like to call them down now. I believe they're seated over to my left. So girls, please.
Hi, my name is Jadalyn Santiago. I am a senior and a student athlete here at West Islip High School. Today we'll be speaking about an extension to our flag football program that was newly introduced last year. I have a little bit of things written here. As the flag football program was first introduced to the athletic department, I knew immediately the impact the sport would have not only on our local community, but also the girls across the country. Flag football has become such a popular sport amongst young women across the country in such a quick amount of time, and as we've seen in our own community, we had just over 40 young women from West Islip participate in this varsity sport as soon as the first winter workout opened in February. As most of you know, flag football is expanding as a high-demanding sport, and as shown in our own team, the drive these girls have to improve and continue in flag football as a part of their athletic career is exhilarating. As we know, flag football has 7 girls on the field at once. With an offensive and defensive lineup with an offensive and defensive lineup, the playing time for over 40 girls is limited, and equal playing time based on skill is impossible, with due to no fault of these coaches. They're the best. This includes subbing players in and out. In terms of a junior varsity team, this extension to our flag football program will not only help in expanding our program, but also give these girls, these hardworking young women the opportunity to improve their skills and get on the field. Junior varsity will open doors to underclassmen, including this year's sophomores who were able to get involved last year, as well as the freshmen and 8th graders who have looked up to and been inspired by our successful inaugural season. These girls have done camps, outside leagues, showing just how important this sport is to them, and to have a JV team means to have these girls who have been working their butts off finally have the opportunities to pay it off. Personally speaking, and I know that many of these other girls would be able to advocate for me and agree, this sport in itself, whether it's the companionship of these teammates, the traits that are given to us just from being in this sport alone, are amazing. I've learned leadership, I've learned companionship, I've met so many different people, and I think that a junior varsity team would be a great extension to this program, given that it's such a new, expanding sport, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
The coaches did an excellent job of being blunt with the team and saying, like, just bouncing off of what Jadalyn said, saying that a lot of girls wouldn't get the playing time. And I appreciate how they did take 40 girls onto the team because they understood that they needed to build a program. Other schools last year who were more established, like with the flag football team, did have a JV program, but there weren't enough teams to necessarily like compete against them. So by adding a team to West Islip, we will be able to like expand to other schools and like allow them to develop JV teams that could spread more like passion for flag football. Because personally, this sport I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and it has become one of my greatest passions.
Yes, this sport definitely changes you in the most amazing ways I've ever seen it, especially myself. So I agree with Taylor on that.
I would say probably for the past 6 weeks, we've received a lot of emails regarding the flag football and the development of a JV team. Before I even continue on that, I do want to just congratulate you all again on your inaugural season, making the playoffs, and what a success it was. So congratulations. We are often asked about the ability of adding programs and bringing new things to the district that will benefit the children, athletes. I'd like to sit here and say that we can always say yes to everything, but that's not necessarily the case. However, I did reach out to Ms. Pilati when these emails first came in, who, if you don't know, she is our Assistant Superintendent of Business, and I asked if there was any way possible that we might be able to fund the JV flag football team this season. And what'd you come up with?
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. Well, actually, just to give a quick background, West Islip Transportation is outsourced about 80% from Suffolk Transit, but in-house we have 9 drivers. And since the COVID pandemic, we have been very limited with the number of drivers Suffolk provides to us for all of our athletic trips, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. So thankfully, thanks to our amazing district drivers, they have stepped up and done the majority of our athletic trips, which has led to significant cost savings each year since the pandemic. So if there's any place that we could find savings, it would be in the athletic transportation line. So I think we would be able to allocate some of those savings to JV flag football.
Which is your way of saying that we do have the funds to field the team. So at that point, I would turn to the board and ask if there's anyone here who would not want to allocate those funds to a JV flag football team. So what we're all saying is that we are in favor of this, and we will have a JV flag football team. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to thank all the parents parents and everyone who did advocate for this. You know, it's moments like this that really make this worth it, seeing that the direct impact it has. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you all for coming tonight. And I don't want to ignore Mr. O'Farrell, who is also here, who wanted to speak on behalf of the flag football team. I don't know where. You're good? He's good. So there we go. You are all more than welcome to hang out tonight if you want, but if not, you guys are, congratulations to you. Okay. In case you guys can't see, we have things everywhere tonight, so I'm not usually unorganized. I'm just going to take a moment to get settled in here. All right, on December 5th, the Board of Education held a special meeting where we retained counsel and commenced litigation and sent a letter to the state. Today we're formally proceeding with a resolution to opt out of regionalization. So with that being said, resolve the Board of Education hereby direct the Superintendent of Schools to advise the State Education Department that the West Islip Union Free School District is opting out of regionalization pursuant to Part 124 of the regulations of the Commissioner of Education. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, so
I was just going to introduce you, Dr. Romanelli. All right, as you can see, Dr. Romanelli is here to discuss the student enrollment presentation.
thank you so much, Mr. Tussey. Thanks everyone for being here this evening. We have a presentation tonight on student enrollment. There's a couple different areas that we're going to look at. We're going to do a 10-year look back for K through 12 based on grade levels in different buildings in the district. Talk about the evolving student needs over the past 10 years. Take a look specifically at our pre-K program and also take a look at the alignment of some of our buildings in the district. This is just as kind of like a precursor. This presentation is all about the fact that we have seen a decline over the last 10 years in enrollment in the district. However, we're seeing an upturn right now at our elementary schools, and we're going to outline that a little bit for you tonight. We have Manitowoc and Oquanock that feed into Udall, as you can see on our map up here, and Paul J. Ballou and Bayview that feed into Beach Street Middle School. We are not talking about, this is a good conversation, we're not talking about closing buildings, we're not talking about redistricting our district. We're talking about the fact that we have more students coming into our schools and the creative ways that we can figure that out together. So just as a full district summary, you can see here that when you look at these numbers, we're down almost 800 students from where we were about 10 years ago. And I also have to give a big thank you to our tech integration specialists, Ms. Hinchman and Ms. Crouch helped me learn Canva this month, so learned a couple different graphs and was very happy with that. As you can see, we'll break this down a little bit further. We're down about 800 students over the course of the last 10 years. At the secondary level, we're down just over 600 students. And when you look at this at the elementary level, it's a little bit less. You can kind of see a trend here where we're down 140 students overall over the past 10 years. However, you can start to see an uptick when you look at the 2020-21 school year. And these are K through 5. So we removed our pre-K because we have different pre-K counts in different buildings. These are our K through 5 students currently in the district. So we want to go through each of our buildings because each building has a different story, different programs, and also different breakdowns of population and enrollment in the buildings. This Bayview enrollment, I know this is kind of a busy slide here, but if you look at this K through 5, if you take a look to the left at the first bar on each grade level, that's the indicator from 10 years ago. The bar all the way on the right is the current indicator. So you can actually see that, when you look at the enrollment here for Bayview, we're actually up in kindergarten and first grade from where we were 10 years ago. We have a higher enrollment in both of those grade levels there. you'll see kind of a leveling off as to where we were in grades 2 and 3 from 10 years ago, and we're still down a little bit in grades 4 and 5 from where we were 10 years ago. You can see just by looking at this, we're down 40 students from where we were K through 5 10 years ago, but we're up 50 from where we were in 2021-22 school year. So you can see that similar sort of trend at Bayview there. On to Paul J. Ballou. When you take a look at Paul J. Ballou, similar things you will notice. We are up in kindergarten from where we were 10 years ago. We're kind of leveled off in 1, 2, and 3 and still down in 4 and 5. If you look at the full numbers here, we're down 26 students overall. However, if you look at that purple bar in 2020 and 2021, you can see that we've also started to rise up from there as well, even from 1920 as well. And on over to Oquanock. We take a look at the Oquanock enrollment. Oquanock has some of the most unique enrollment. You know, we have grade 1 is up at Oquanock from where we were 10 years ago. Our other grade levels are down there. And that will indicate kind of a more leveling out since the past 5 years or so. We're down still, as you can see, about 80 students over at Oquanock, but we are seeing a little bit of a leveling off and rising from where we were a few years ago. At Manitowoc, we really see our largest growth of any of our elementary schools. If there's any Manitowoc parents out there, I'm sure that you know that. When you take a look at the breakdown of Manitowoc enrollment, K through 5, you can see that we are up in kindergarten where we were 10 years ago. We are leveled off at grades 1 and 2. We're up in grade 3 as well, down in grade 4 and kind of leveled off there. And actually, when you look at the full picture about Manitowoc, we're actually up from where we were 10 years ago at Manitowoc, 496. So we're up a few students from where we were 10 years ago there. So now that we looked at each of our 4 elementary schools, we're going to look at our full K through 5 enrollment. So if you look at the district enrollment by grade level, you see the same sort of story, right? K and 1, we're up from where we were 10 years ago. Grades 2 and 3 were pretty leveled off, and we are down in grades 4 and 5. So as you can see, as this kind of wave goes through, and our 4th and 5th grade students start to graduate from our elementary schools, if this enrollment trend continues, we're going to see larger grade levels K through 5 in all of our buildings. So that's really what the conversation is about tonight. We're anticipating that and trying to plan ahead and thinking about how we can best meet the needs of our students in our district buildings. Here's just a trend line kind of illustrating that. As we know, we're down overall K through 5, but you can see that trend going up from all the way from 1587 to 1714 over the past 5 years. And popping over to middle school, we're going to take a look at Beach Street Middle School first, where we are right now. You can see we're pretty significantly down, from where we were about 10 years ago. And you can see a little bit of a leveling off, though, over the past 3 years, kind of indicating that we may be at our lowest enrollment point right now, once things are starting to level off and turn around. You can actually see here that at Beach Street, we're down 164 students overall from where we were about 10 years ago to 380 students in the building. On to Udall. If we take a look at Udall, you can see that we're level or up a little bit in recent years, but we are down overall as well. We're down to 438, which is about 121 students less than we were 10 years ago. And if we look at both of our middle schools together, so a full 6 through 8 enrollment, you can see the same sort of story there. Somewhat of a leveling off in the last 3 years, but down overall at the middle school level. So we're down actually almost 300 students overall over the past 10 years at the middle school level. And as we move on to our high school, and pop over to West Islip High School, you can see that the West Islip High School enrollment, same sort of story. We're down in each grade level from where we were 10 years ago. If you look at the actual numbers here at the high school, we're down about 350 students from where we were about 10 years ago. And when we look at this as our full K through 12 enrollment, we can see this district enrollment summary here. We're down about 800 students, or just about 800 students from where we were about 10 years ago. So a lot of different things to consider here. and some additional items, just in terms of student enrollment. If we put pre-K back into our buildings, so this year we look at our total count, our in-district enrollment is just over 3,800 students. And something interesting to note here is that, our elementary schools in many cases have although they have higher amount of grades in the building, and they also have higher enrollment than our middle schools. Beach Street Middle School has the lowest enrollment of any of our buildings. And you can see our largest enrollment at the elementary is Manitowoc as well. So that's with our pre-K numbers in there. We have 2 of our elementary buildings with 2 pre-K sections currently, and 2 of them with 1. And if you look at the breakdown of our pre-K enrollment, you can see that we began our pre-K program in the district in 2019-2020 with 100 students. And as you travel through the years, you can see that in the 21-22 school year, we began to partner with South Shore Children's Center over at Westbrook because we had a number of students that we had, so if you would call it an overflow from our buildings, and partnered to have students attend over there. In 22-23, you can see that that number rises a little bit. Also want to note that we received grant funding as a district for 213 students total. So you can see that this is the first year in 22-23 where we're over that amount, and the district took on some cost to pay for the additional students that we did not receive grant funding for. In 23-24, we were at 237 and 77 at South Shore, and 24-25, our current year, we're at 246 students with 126 over at South Shore. So we keep upping our amount of students that we're over at South Shore. It is great that we have the Westbrook building and we have the partnership there, so we do have that flexibility that when we have our enrollment up, we have other places that students can be. So I want to outline that in just 2 ways. Just when looking at this different enrollment, there's some expenses here. So I'm looking at 23-24 last year specifically because we have the final expenditure reports for 23-24. And if you look at this, you can see that the cost to educate the 160 students that year that were in West Islip schools, we had 8 sections there, so there were 40 students in each of our 4 elementaries, cost about $1.3 million. The share for our 77 students that went to South Shore was about $415,000, and our total UPK cost is about $1.7 million. You can see that our UPK grant aid is $1.1 million, so the district took on a cost last year of about $600,000 to keep some of our pre-K classes in-house and also pay for students that went over that 213 amount. So over that cap of grant funding, we've been currently paying for students over that amount right there. To talk about that and put that in perspective here with this current year, you can see that we're up in enrollment again this current year. We now have 6 sections in the district as opposed to 8. And you can see that some of the cost has gone up a little bit. The cost for the district was about $1.1 million and about $700,000 for the CBO. The total UPK cost went up to about $1.8 million. We still receive that same amount of grant funding, which has stayed flat for us for a long time at $1.15 million. And you can see the cost has gone up to $673,000. If that trend were to continue and we were to have, let's say, another 10 pre-K students next year, so let's say that we were at, in the 250s somewhere, we'd be looking at a cost of about $750,000 for the district to educate those additional students in-house. So what I have illustrated here just on the 3rd column is if we were to look at staying within our grant allocation, we had initially talked about having 1 section in each of our elementary buildings and having 80 students there and 133 at the CBO. That would still be, even with the cap, a cost of about $450,000 additional on top of the grant funding to the school district. Looking at all these different things, we're already starting to follow some creative solutions in our buildings. We're maxed out in our elementary schools. We have full classrooms, and we have used 24 out of 24 classrooms or 25 out of 25 classrooms. At Oakwonock, we have about 23 classrooms, but we have converted 2 spaces to account for the additional classes that we needed for this school year. We've disassembled our indoor playground at Oakwonock and created classroom space in there. We've also taken a look at our computer lab next to our library over at Oakwonock and created that into instructional space. So we're already using creative solutions to try to find space for students in our buildings. So what we want to take a look at, and again, none of this has been decided, this is for discussion. It would be irresponsible for us not to have this discussion at this point in time, is that building space is a real issue. We would recommend an enrollment study through BOCES next year and funding that in our upcoming budget to take a look at if this trend will be continuing in the coming years, and also considering a cap for pre-K enrollment at 213. The extra step here that we really think the board should consider as well is that if we have 213 students and we're capping our enrollment at 213 for pre-K, it is possible that all 213 of those students could attend pre-K over at Westbrook and partner with South Shore Children's Center. It would free up additional classrooms in our district to make room for our incoming K classes and our larger size classes that are coming up through the different grade levels. Also, just want to add, we have an amazing pre-K program in district. We have amazing teachers. We're extremely proud of our program. We're proud of the partnership that we've made with South Shore Children's Center. We share materials over there. We share instructional materials. We do PD together. We have the same sort of instructional strategies. So one thing that if we were to consider that, about moving our students all over to South Shore Children's Center, our cost would actually be zero for the district, so we'd be able to save that additional $450,000. However, we may want to dedicate some other costs to maintain that instructional program if we did consider that. We could consider one of our current pre-K teachers with experience to kind of oversee the program over at South Shore. The benefits of that would be we'd be ensuring we currently have, different programs in each of our buildings and South Shore. This would put everyone in one place. It would be able to make a cohesive instructional program. If we did have someone overseeing it, they could be posting curriculum on our website for pre-K. They could be helping any families that needed to find pre-K placements, and they could also be doing articulation with our 4 elementary buildings to be talking about our pre-K students coming up into the kindergarten years. So again, this would be something that we would ask the board to consider for immediate consideration, whether that is first off the enrollment study, second off the cap of pre-K, and third, considering doing both, capping and shifting our program over to South Shore Children's Center over at Westbrook. A more long-term consideration for the board, 5th grade. You've seen that the enrollment at our middle schools is significantly less than our enrollment at our elementary schools. This is not something that we would look to do for next year, so I know for any 5th grade parents who are concerned about this and saying, this is like, I know it can be stressful. I have elementary age students of my own, kids of my own. So this is something long-term. If this enrollment trend continues and our buildings we're seeing now, instead of just being up in K and 1, now we're up in K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we may want to consider a shift of 5th grade students to our middle schools to even out some of our spaces. We have a lot of resources at our middle schools. As you know, we have an assistant principal at our middle schools. We have multiple guidance counselors, a lot of different support staff that we may not fully have at our elementary schools. And of course, if we were considering a shift up to the middle schools for 5th grade, there's always the consideration about realignment of buildings and things like that. I just want to stress again, none of this has been determined or predetermined or anything like that. This is all discussion phase, and I think this is an important long-term discussion if this enrollment trend does continue. And really taking a look also at our additional district buildings. We recently entered in a great partnership with Massera, with BOCES. It's a 10-year partnership where we're going to be receiving the building back. They put about $15 million worth of work into the building, and we'll be receiving the building back in about 10 years, having the option to continue them leasing and bring in revenue, or us taking it back for ourselves. And we currently have leases over at our Currituhey and Westbrook buildings as well, that we're always analyzing and looking at those partnerships also. So that's an important long-term piece there as well, to take a look and see if we're going to be renewing leases, adjusting leases, and things like that. So we want to continue that tradition of excellence while also evolving to meet the needs of our students in the district as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Romanelli. I would
One second,
imagine,
Mr. Tessie, a couple of questions. Dr. Romanelli?
Absolutely.
If we were to consider moving it all to the Westbrook building, could they accommodate the 246?
So that would be really tough because this year, we actually did a lot of construction over at Westbrook. We're really thankful, again, to not only our partnership with South Shore Children's Center, but also with Divine Rhythms, who's also a tenant in that building. Divine Rhythms actually has some space that they will sublet because they're not using all of their space in that building. So they actually were able to move some of their tenants out or around the building so that South Shore could actually expand into that space and take our 2 pre-K classes that we moved over there this year. I know that they have the ability to take on the 213 and the cap, but I think anything over that would really infringe on the Divine Rhythms agreement that we have. So it would be really, really challenging to go above that number.
And thanks for the study, and obviously there's space concerns, but I mean, for me, my personal thing would be to make sure that we keep the entire pre-K population coming into the buildings and find a way, but I know the board, we can work with that, but I understand the space concerns.
I would imagine with budget season rapidly approaching, this decision would have to be made sooner than later.
Yeah, and I would really just think, by our January meeting, see, we're so close together. Some feedback there. With our January meeting, we have a meeting on January 9th, I believe, right after into the new year. We really want to make, somewhat of a decision by that point because of the fact that we also want our families to be able to plan, with our pre-K lotteries and things like that. We have that's typically we do our kindergarten enrollment as well. We want to get as much information out to families as we could. So January is a perfect time to make a decision on that.
All right, so, listen, with that being said, we don't know what the enrollment is, so we're making a decision on capping. We could get lucky and there could be 205 kids enrolled, or we can get extremely unlucky and there could be 265. We're also making this decision not knowing what our foundation aid will be from the state. So I'm saying this out loud because there really is a lot to consider here. And, one of our jobs as a school board members is the fiduciary part of this district. And so we know foundation aid has always been threatened to be decreased. We're looking at nearly $800,000. We're going to have our work cut out for us, so a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. I thank you for that presentation. It was obviously very thorough and informative, and we're going to use that to make the best decision for everybody. I don't know if anybody else has anything you want to add to that? Yeah. All right, thank you, Dr. Romano. All right, we do have another public discussion item, and that is about the live streaming of Board of Education meetings. It's been asked, and I sit here, and I do not see any drawback on live streaming of the meetings, as long as that the people that are viewing from home understand that they cannot submit online questions to be answered. It would really just be viewing services. Other than that, I don't see any reason to not live stream. I don't think so.
And I spoke to Dr. Kylie Rendon, our Executive Director of Technology and Innovation. He said that if the board would like, they can look into what the cost of that would be, what any sort of implications that there might be, and we can always report back to you at one of our next meetings.
Okay, great. We do have some people who do wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, so I'm going to call up Diana McGibbon.
Hi, good evening. I'd like to speak on the student enrollment and the pre-K program, as I have had 2 children go through the pre-K program at Manitowoc Elementary and I was very happy with the education that they received. And I do have a child who I was looking to enroll come January, and I feel that there was little consideration of the families that were planning and thought that they had a spot come next September, in the fact that we have not researched private preschools that we would need to be putting a deposit down for in the month of January, due to the lottery not taking place until April. If they're not guaranteed a spot, we can't wait until April to try and find placement for our children. So all 200 to 250 plus families would have to put a deposit down on a private pre-K, most of which would likely lose that deposit once they got accepted into the UPK program. And also, a lot of families might not have budgeted the $800 to $10,000 it's going to cost them to have to now send their child to a private preschool. So those are just considerations that I think it would have been nice if this would have been, we would have known this prior to December. I don't know, I've heard rumors, and I kind of heard what Dr. Romanelli was saying, that South Shore possibly does not use Fundation. And I feel that if all the classes are being moved to South Shore, that those teachers should be provided with the materials for Fundations and be trained in Fundations, so that when they go to the elementary schools, they have that K-2 curriculum and they're continuing on with that. And I know that he mentioned reorganization of the buildings for a later time, but that's something that I think, you know, would have been better suited to be considered sooner. And I understand that this is a lot of money that the district would be paying, you know, to keep all of the students involved in this. But I just have questions as to what the other programs and where the money would be better utilized than where it's being utilized now in the pre-K. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share some of your concerns this evening. One thing that I would just like to clarify is that we do have a very strong partnership with South Shore Children's Center, and all of the classrooms at South Shore Children's Center do utilize Fundations and Hegarty, as we do in our buildings. We have sent our own staff to spend some time at South Shore to cross-train with the pre-K teachers at South Shore, so that we can ensure that the students there are receiving the same foundation as the classrooms in our school buildings, so all students go into kindergarten at the same place. So we're very happy that we've been able to have that partnership with them. It is also our top priority, as soon as a decision is made on whether or not there will be a cap on enrollment, to get that lottery process done as soon as possible, because we do recognize that a lot of families are waiting to make plans based on the results of that lottery.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, thank you so much for raising those points. You know, I think sometimes, you know, we sit a lot and we're already talking about the budget for next year and kind of what that's going to look like, what aid's going to look like, and what kind of decisions that we have to make. You know, we're already talking about different programs for next year, you know, whether it be a new literacy program in our elementary school, bringing in coding and AI opportunities for elementary students, additional staff that we may need for the year. So when we already start to see numbers add up and things like that, we're already starting to kind of take a look at developing priorities and all those things. And I would just encourage everyone to, you know, be here and be part of the budget process. That's where we really do outline those types of things and say, you know, we have to make some decisions between this, and this. You know, we have a certain amount of money, and, you know, what should we be doing? So it's great to get feedback from the community about priorities.
Okay, we have another card from Mrs. Materi.
I thought the lottery for the pre-K was supposed to get called in January, not April.
Yeah, it's been a little different each year, but this year we're shooting for January for the lottery.
All right, can we get that like to be a concrete timeline?
We're gonna do the lottery in January.
Okay, good, thank you. So now, 'cause we
It's a
do
little
have-
pressure on Mrs. Morrison, she does a great lottery.
Okay, so by the end of January, we're gonna be able to figure out what we're doing. Okay, so now we also have another concern. And it is a concern that I'm sure it's affecting many communities, not just ours. But we know from my conversation with Dr. Romanelli the other day, that there can be students that are gonna get into the lottery that can absolutely get a spot over children if we are, because when I had my son, it was COVID year. He was unexpected, but my happy surprise. And COVID year, there was a lot of babies, and I don't think we're gonna luck out with 213. I think we're gonna be way over that number. So my concern is what happens if now there are students that get into the lottery, that get spots over students that are not migrant students. And now we have migrant students in spots that will be eventually potentially removed, and there could be quite a few of them. So now what happens to the other children that are here that don't get in, and now we have to pay $12,000 a year for these children? I'll use my son as an example. I'm now gonna have to pay $12,000 and other people get it and we don't? And we've been paying into the system for how long? And now what happens if those spots open up? What is the impact that's gonna happen on the community and these kids?
So I just want to clarify your question. What you're asking is, what happens if a migrant student takes the place?
It's not gonna be one. When I was talking to Dr. Romanelli, it could be quite a few in the lotto. So if they get into the lotto and they are now removed, what happens to those spots? And
All I could point to here is just that, we have a registration process, for pre-K and for kindergarten, and families are required to submit certain required paperwork, and we have a great, registrar, and we, do our due diligence to make sure that anybody who is a West Islip resident is entitled to that. We do regular residency checks and studies. We're too busy, we don't go out looking for them, but they get reported to us on a weekly basis, and we will investigate, and if students or families are not living in the district and attempting to attend schools here, we absolutely address that. We do it on a weekly basis, believe it or not.
right, but that doesn't answer my question. What happens to the spots now that so let's say my son, I'm paying $12,000 a year for him to go to a pre-K program or daycare, and now these spots open up that would have been in essence free, and I wouldn't have had to pay. So now what happens to those spots? Do they stay vacant? Are you gonna now go back to the lottery and try and refill it with another student that should have had a spot?
I'd just like to clarify that I understand your question. Are you saying if we have a student that is placed into the program that is ultimately removed from the
Correct.
program, what
Correct.
happens to their spot?
Not just one, it could be several, because if these students get removed, what happens to those spots?
Every year that we've had the program, based on the different circumstances, because they have been different each year, we have established some type of wait list system, and I would anticipate that we would do the same for this year, that no matter what the circumstances are, we will determine a wait list system that the community would be aware of should spots open up once the program is full.
Wait list, okay, so
So
we
it would be
can
next in
impact.
line is what you're saying?
Correct.
What'd you say?
Someone goes out, someone comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would fill the spot.
So you would refill the spots?
Yes.
Okay, with how much notice?
Depends on how much
In-
we have.
In the past, when we find out that a student has left the program, we go to the next person on the list and call them, and we can get it done, turned around in typically a day.
Is the school supplemented by the state for migrant students? Is West Islip supplemented from the state for every migrant student that's in our school district?
It's a challenging question, but what I would tell you is that we don't have any students currently classified as migrant students. You know, we have,
Undocumented?
so I wouldn't equate the two, but I would say
So
that
what term should I use?
I'm not sure what you're would necessarily. If you mean someone who is, let's say, like if you're talking about someone who is in the country illegally,
Yep.
then you know we don't have a number on that or a determination in our school districts. You know, so it's tough to answer that question when you don't know if the number is 0.
So then the state doesn't give us money for them?
Yeah, we register students that come to the district with the necessary paperwork that they provide to us through a registration process. So,
Yeah, but to be clear, there is no additional funding for any children other than what we have in our budget. We don't get any additional state funding for anyone classified in any other.
correct, yes.
We have students that come to our district that are registered to the district that we need to service, and that there is no additional funds that come from the state for that.
So by the way, I took a friendship list and I looked up some addresses today, and some addresses were bogus. So maybe you should do a little more research on the addresses that are being given to us. Thank you.
And if I can say one more thing, and I would say this is a work in progress as we get to the numbers, but the question I have is, if South Shore can handle 213, then we should be able to handle the rest in our buildings. That's an option.
So it would require a lot of shifting around in South Shore. Number one, we'd have to shift out some of the tenants, you know, from Divine Rhythms and do a little construction, but we would be able to make that work to get some additional classrooms. The issue that we have is really, it's not our enrollment right now. You know, like I know for just one example, if you talk about Paul J. Ballou, you know, we already know of 2 additional classes that are coming into us at that building for next year above what we already have. So when we talk about, you know, we'll have space in the district, we're already going to be, even if we moved out one pre-K class from Paul J. Ballou over to South Shore, we have 2 more classes coming in. We'd be able to place one in that classroom, but we'd have to find a creative solution for the other. So although the numbers may indicate that, the space that we have in our buildings does not.
Okay, Brendan O'Regan?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brendan O'Regan, and I'm a senior at West Islip High School, as well as the PTSA Vice President. I've been enrolled in SUPA, AP, and IB classes since the beginning of 10th grade. I believe that taking away AP and SUPA classes would be disadvantageous to the student body at West Islip High School. First of all, the IB program doesn't work for a lot of students who take music, ASL, business classes, BOCES, or other who have specified classes toward their intended career pathway. For example, I was considering the IB program in 10th grade, but would have had to give up band or chorus. There's many students like me who take these higher level classes, but many times are also involved in the music department. Removing the options will force academically inclined students to choose between pursuing music and taking IB courses. Ultimately, I've taken multiple AP and SUPA courses, and they've all fit in my schedule, and I've been able to balance both the arts and academics. Not all institutions accept these IB credits, and even if you excel in these IB classes, you aren't guaranteed the credit. SUPA almost always guarantees 6 credits, and you're entering college with experience in a real college class. AP is widely accepted across institutions if you pass. And keeping AP and SUPA allows for more options to choose from. Depending on the type of student you are, SUPA or AP classes may better suit your strengths. IB is more writing focused, while AP is more Socratic, conversational. There's a lot of group work. SUPA is a literal college class, and it helps prep us for college. And also, you aren't bound to like in these classes. For AP and SUPA classes, they're all 1 year. So if you don't like it, I've known many students like myself, maybe you don't like an AP class or a SUPA class, and at the end of the year, the beauty of it is that you can just not take it anymore. The IB program, it tends to bind kids to a 2-year program, and I believe that in high school, it's the time to explore like your options and kind of figure out what you want to do, and it's hard to do that if you're bound to a 2-year course. The IB program is definitely beneficial to some students, but not for all. It is important that you keep what is best for all students in mind when making this decision, and I hope this resonates with you and is something to take into account before taking this step. There's been kind of this notion that AP and SUPA classes are not making us college and career ready. I've been a student here for 13 years, and if I'm not college and career ready, each and every one of you has failed me and so many other students.
Good evening. So from what I've seen so far, it is true that the board is considering the fact of removing AP and SUPA classes. So I'd like to ask and clarify, what is the board's rationale for doing so?
I don't really know if there's a complete rationale right at this moment, as much as we are in the discussion process. And it's actually not even the board that's having this conversation. I'm not looking to throw you guys under the bus, but I know this is a cabinet conversation. I don't know if you guys want to take the lead on, the rationale behind it.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak with us tonight. So West Islip is very fortunate to have a wide variety of course offerings, SUPA, AP, IB being some of the many different courses that we offer. And each year, we really take a look at our course selections to ensure that the courses we are providing are meeting the needs and the curriculum and instructional goals of the district. And as so many people have said tonight, it's really to ensure that our students are being well prepared for college or careers after graduation. All of these courses have merit, AP, IB, SUPA, and many of the other academic programs that we follow. We are not looking in any way to eliminate AP courses. We see a great deal of value in our AP courses. However, when we look at all of these courses combined, there are some redundancies. There are some courses that have been added over time that are very similar in nature to other academic programs that are being run. So we just recently sat down and looked through our course catalog and identified some of those redundancies. And where we saw them, we spoke about the positives of them, some of the areas where maybe they're not hitting all of what we have identified as our curricular and instructional goals. So we started to have the conversation of, in certain cases, eliminating some of the redundancies. In other cases, we're talking about providing additional opportunities for students to obtain the IB diploma. We are an IB World School. I'll give you an example right now. We have AP Art. AP Art is amazing, but students that would like to get the IB diploma cannot get the IB diploma without having the opportunity to partake in an IB art class. So one of the discussions we had is perhaps adding an IB art class as an option. Like Mr. Tussey said, we are in the phases of talking through and considering all of these options. Nothing has been officially decided at this point, but in no way, shape, or form are we looking to eliminate AP. SUPA we do hold in very high regard. SUPA courses are based off of the curriculum of one university. They aren't as highly sought after as AP and IB courses. AP courses and IB courses, students get college credit based on scores earned on the exams. So it's not just if you take an AP course, you necessarily get the credit. It's based off of the college or university that a student goes to and whether or not they achieved the score that the school, deems appropriate for the college credit. So we appreciate the feedback that we're receiving tonight. I was so proud of the students that got up earlier. Some of them are my students that I worked with back in elementary school, and we appreciate the feedback, and we will certainly include it in our conversations as we continue through this process.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if I could, first of all, thanks for your comments, and Brendan, I think he's still here. Thanks for the comments, and the ones prior to this. So just so the process is clear, so we had an education meeting, the committee meeting from the board, was presented these thoughts and ideas just Tuesday. So that comes from committee meetings from the administration, and then we kind of give our thoughts on it from our view. I was a student here myself, was blessed to leave this school with 22 AP credits. It's real dollars. So my concern was that we want to make sure that, having 2 children myself right now in college, it's a large expense, that we make sure that all the offerings that we make are the right for the students, whether it's AP or IB, and then also have those abilities to earn real college credits, because those are real dollars and they really prepare you for college. So that was the discussion we had. It was the first discussion that we had about it, but that's some of what's going on behind the scenes. But we are really happy that many of the students spoke on this tonight, because it was kind of the views that we had shown. I know Mr. Riddell had also expressed it, having just been at the high school level, and that's what we're looking at. So by no means is it over. There's been no decisions made. It's not really. They present to the board, and we have these discussions. But all of what you said tonight helps us guide those decisions. So thank you.
Well, I would also like to mention that in some cases, if, for example, the redundancies are removed, it would leave situations where certain AP classes had corresponding IB classes, resulting in the idea that the AP classes may not have been as challenging and thusly more acceptable for a greater amount of students. So my main concern is for the students that maybe aren't, I don't want to say not smart enough for IB, but not as inclined for IB classes, to be essentially pressured by the removal of the corresponding AP class to be pressured into the IB course, which, in my opinion, is unjust to the student body.
If I can, I think that what we need to look at is the number of kids that are in these SUPA and AP courses versus the corresponding IB courses that we are looking to get rid of the AP and SUPA courses, which tend to have higher numbers than the IB courses. So I feel that that's a disservice to those higher number of kids that are in the classes, that they're picking those classes. They could have taken the IB classes, but they decided to go for the SUPA and AP classes for a reason. And I think that's very important to consider during this consideration. And you guys are heard, and we're working for it.
Thank you.
Mr. Daniel White.
I just wanted to say something about the universal pre-K. All these other programs, I know that they said they're important and they're great, the sports programs and AP programs and all these programs, and the kids are in them and they're terrific. But universal pre-K is the one program that every child can go into, and nothing should be cutting that short. You said that you wanted to do what's best for everybody. Capping the universal pre-K is not best for everybody. It's best if you're getting the lottery, but if you're not, it's not best for you. And there's no way that there should be a lottery. You should have everybody in it or nobody in it. Then it's not fair that way.
Thank you, Mr. White. Last card on the agenda item, we have Carolyn Buckley.
fourth grader, a first grader, and an incoming pre-K student. You actually saw her on Tuesday. If you remember, I was the only one there with children. That was me with the little girl. So please keep her in mind as I speak. I understand that the CAP is fiscally responsible for the district. However, these are your future students. These are your future reading students, your future writing students, your future math students. I am a kindergarten teacher in Nassau County. I'm a tenured teacher. I've been teaching for 13 years. I taught kindergarten. I've been teaching kindergarten for a while, and I taught pre-K for about 6 years. So I know what I'm talking about, and I'm coming from an educational standpoint. I currently have a class of 19 for 5 and 6-year-olds, and 5 of them did not come up through our pre-K program. So 14 of the children have come through the program, 5 of them did not. Anyone that comes into my classroom with an educational eye, any educational background, would be able to point out those 5 children within the first 5 minutes of a lesson. I'm not saying that they don't have experiences, they all went to pre-K. They didn't go through our pre-K. And it's just, they missed out on the continuity of the programs, the continuity of the practices. And I know you said that, my daughter actually goes to South Shore now, so I know that these teachers are speaking with the district and working with teachers, but any children that are not accepted into your pre-K don't get that. And so these are your future learners. Don't you want them to have the best opportunity possible? I just think of my daughter who's at this meeting. Think of her. She just doesn't make the lotto, so she doesn't get that opportunity. I don't think that's fair to her. I don't think it's fair to anyone in our community. Both my boys made it through the program. Fabulous, loved it, everything about it. I still speak to their teacher to this day, just on an educational level, because it was just such a wonderful experience, and I really don't want anyone in our community to miss out on it. Again, coming from an educational standpoint, it's well worth it. And kudos to you guys for even getting it for us. My son was the first group to go. He was the first group of the 100. And he was better prepared for kindergarten than a lot of my students are now. So I just hope that you think about Violet Buckley when you are considering a lotto. Thank you.
There's not one board member up here or one administrator or school official who does not appreciate and understand the value of pre-K. It's one of the reasons why the board has been so generous financially the last few years. I don't want to mince words in the sense that it's a combination of finances but also space in our buildings, which are the concerns. And these are obviously the difficult decisions that we're faced with. I think in a perfect world, we would continue the way it's going. That's not the case. I don't even want to mention the concept of piercing the tax cap to help alleviate some of the financial constraints, because I don't think that would go over too well. But there are always options. And with that being said, I can promise everyone that the board and everyone up here to my left and to my right is going to do everything in our power to make sure that we can continue with the universal pre-K to the best of our ability, so that the kids do get the educational benefits. I mean, obviously as a teacher myself, I see it, I understand it, I appreciate it. I do wish there was universal pre-K when I had my 4 daughters growing up. It would have been nice. So those of you with the financial concerns, believe me, I get it, and we appreciate it. So for everyone that's here tonight speaking on that behalf, thank you for your insight, for your concerns. We're going to take it all into consideration and hopefully make a decision that's best for everybody. All right, at this time, I do need a motion, please, to approve the minutes of the November 10th, 2024 planning session, as well as the December 5th, 2024 special meeting. Second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, let's move into personnel. Mr. Cameron?
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. I'd like to request a motion for the approval of the memorandum of agreement between WIDA, West Islip Union Free School District, and Employee A, as listed in the backup.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Excellent. I'd like to request a consent personnel agenda for all items listed in the personnel backup for teacher T1 through other, including all items from preferred substitute through boys volleyball.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Tussey.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Curriculum update, Mrs. Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey, and thank you to everyone that came out this evening to talk about the proposed course changes and the UPK program. We really spoke about the things that I was going to be sharing tonight during my curriculum and instruction update. So the only thing that I would like to add is a reminder about our book talk that will be taking place on Thursday, January 2nd. It's the second part of The Anxious Generation, and it will be taking place at 7 p.m. in the Library Media Center at the high school, or virtually via a Zoom link that was shared out several weeks ago. The Zoom link will also be posted on the district website on January 2nd for anyone that would like to join. Thank you, Mr. Tussey.
All right, thank you. We have our report on board committees. We'll start off with Building and Grounds with Mr. McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. I'll be brief. The Buildings and Grounds Committee met on November 19th at 7 p.m. at the Beach Street Middle School Library Center. We discussed 4 major topics, the construction projects that are all going well and all as planned. We discussed the rental income and fees for the buildings. So for everyone's awareness that when we, on certain weekends and times, we do have rental income coming in from certain outside groups. We try to open up the buildings for as many in-house West ISA sports and athletic and Girl Scout groups as we can. But we are getting to the point where our buildings are kind of maxed out in terms of what that is. So we take a look at what the fees that we charge for there. The other thing that we talked about was the security lobby at the district office, which if anyone goes to the back of this building can see the construction is done. And that should be done really by the end of December. So that was what we have for Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you, Mr. McCann. Let's move into education with Mr. Antonello.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Tussey. The Education Committee met Tuesday, December 10th at Beach Street. All committee members were there, with the exception of Mrs. Marks and myself. All administrators were present. A few things were discussed there. The proposed course changes for 25, 26, and 26 and 27s, which has come up quite a bit tonight. The second topic that came up was pre-K for 25, 26. And so we've also discussed quite a bit of that tonight. The important point is that the board plans on taking all things that we've discussed tonight into consideration for the future of the pre-K program. There was also discussion of a pilot for elementary literacy program. The Elementary Literacy Review Committee has narrowed down the number of possible literacy programs that the district will adopt to 2 from a starting number of 9. Fish tank learning was piloted in various grade levels since the start of the school year and recently concluded. Also mentioned, bookworms is now being piloted, and it's anticipated that the pilot will conclude in February, at which point a rubric will be utilized by the committee to guide the selection of our new K-5 literacy program for implementation in September of 2025. The district has received several parent concerns related to some of the literature that could be used as part of the programs. Mrs. Musso has addressed these concerns with the parents, and the district will continue to work with all the stakeholders in this regard. Okay, there was also some updates when it came to AI and a vision statement for the district. Dr. Kylie Rendon and the Instructional Technology Committee have drafted an AI vision statement and supporting documents that will be shared district-wide after the new year and utilized to provide AI learning experiences for our students. Also discussed was mastery learning and equitable grading practices. At the start of each school year, goals are created for the district's instructional program for the 2024-2025 school year. 10 goals were created for the area of curriculum and instruction, and 2 of the instructional program goals will focus on mastery learning and equitable grading practices. Finally, the Okonock Elementary School TSI designation appeal. The district was recently made aware that Okonock Elementary School was designated as a targeted support and improvement school based on the 23-24 NYS ELA and math test results of ELL and economically disadvantaged students. Early this week,
We were informed that Mrs. Morrison has submitted an appeal to New York State Education Department. The basis for the appeal is that Ocranock houses the K-5 elementary ELL students for the entire district. There were 24 ELL students in grades 3 through 5 last year. Only 9 of the 24 students took the ELA and the math test, which in the district's opinion does not provide a valid assessment of that data. So updates in regard to the status of the appeal will be provided when available. The meeting ended at, it usually ended about 7:43 around, so, okay, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Let's move into finance. Mrs. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. The Finance Committee met on December 10th, 2024. Committee members present were myself and Pete McCann. Board members in attendance were Anthony Tussey, Debbie Brown, and Quinn Vidal. Administrators present were Dr. Paul Romanelli, Lisa Pilati, Dawn Morrison, and James Cameron. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss pertinent fiscal matters. The meeting was called to order at 7:30. The following were presented and accepted by the committee: the Treasurer's Report, School District Funds for October, Extracurricular for October, Payroll Summary for October, Financial Statements for October, Internal Claims Audit Report for November, System Manager Audit Trail for November, Payroll Certifications 11/8/24 to 11/27/24, Review of Warrants, Review of Board and Agenda Finance Items, Approval of Budget Transfers 4456 for the Capital Fund and 4457, 4460 for the General Fund, Approval of Bid GC3 General Construction, Single Prime Bid Beach Street Middle School, West Islip High School, and Udall Road Middle School, rejection of Bid GC1 General Contract Single Prime Bid Beach Street Middle School, and GC2 General Construction Single Prime Bid West Islip High School and Udall Road Middle School. Approval of the 24-25 consultant service contract for Theralympics Beach. Approval of the 2024-25 SEDCAR contracts as listed in the agenda. Approval of surplus memos, Beach Street Library, 1,595 books in poor condition, surplus from IT, miscellaneous hardware items, high school orchestra room, 2 instruments storage cabinets in poor condition. Discussion items were TAN results. The district's annual 20 million TANs sold on November 5th, 2024 and closed on November 14th, 2024. The winning bidder was TD Securities with a net interest cost of $383,400 and a net interest rate of 3.195. Volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers tax exemption have been replaced by a new statewide volunteer firefighter and volunteer ambulance worker exemption under RPLT section 466A. The new law offers local options to reduce the required years of service for non-lifetime members from 5 to as few as 2 years. Exemptions under the previous law will expire December 9th, 2025. The Board of Education will hold a public hearing on January 9th, 2025 and adopt a resolution to change the service requirements from 5 to 2 years for non-lifetime members. The district's insurance carrier, NYSER, does not provide excess flood insurance as of July 1st, 2024. However, NYSER has obtained quotes for excess coverage from Wright National Flood Insurance Company. The district will review these quotes and decide in the spring whether to pursue additional coverage starting July 1st, 2025. The meeting was adjourned at 7:41 p.m.
Thank you, Mrs. Kelly. Let's move into special education with Mrs. Brown.
Hi, good evening, everyone. The Special Education Committee met at 8:45 on December 11th, 2024 at District Office. The administrators present were Dr. Romanelli, Dawn Morrison, Jean Dowling, Gail Doherty, Lindsay Ednick. Board members in attendance were myself and Christina Marks. The committee discussed IEPs from CSE and CPSE and recommendations from respective committees. Mrs. Dowling shared that the first round of CPSE observations had been completed and discussed that we continue to see an increase in the needs of our special education students, specifically with our incoming kindergarten students. Ms. Dallin also reported a 2-day professional development training was provided to our new special education teachers and teaching assistants to expand their knowledge base on structured literacy. Additionally, our special education department recently hosted elementary ICT teams from Bay Point Blue Point School District to showcase our integrated co-teaching program in the district. We have already received a great deal of positive feedback, and there are already plans to coordinate a second round of visitations this spring. As an additional socialization opportunity, our special ed students from Reed Street and West Islip High School will be attending a live performance together at CM Performing Arts Theater in Oakdale. On December 20th, our students are anticipating attending the annual Student Senate Holiday Party, which exemplifies our mission to continue to provide inclusive opportunities for all students. The meeting ended at 9:15. The next Special Education Committee meeting will be January 8th at 9 a.m. And just a few SEPTA announcements. Amazing news from SEPTA, President Mara D'Amico. SEPTA was awarded a $5,000 grant from the National PTA to host an interactive, in-person, PTA-connected Create with Kindness program. It will be for parents, caregivers, and teens to engage in conversations about their online experiences and equip families with practical information and resources to enhance online safety as teens use various platforms. The next SEPTA meeting will be January 23rd at 7:30 at Oquanock. SEPTA will again host Laura Holland, who will discuss health and wellness. Ms. Holland spoke at a SEPTA meeting last year and received rave reviews with practical information about kids and health and wellness. She's an all-inclusive speaker, so all may benefit from her amazing wealth of knowledge. So come on down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. The audit committee meeting took place Tuesday, December 10th. In attendance was myself, Debbie Brown, Peter McCann, Twin Bedell, Grace Kelly, Dr. Romanelli, Dawn Morrison, Ms. Bellotti, Mr. Cameron, Rich Coffey, and Jennifer Ditta, both of Cullen and Danowski. The audit committee met. The meeting began at 6 o'clock with the internal auditors Cullen and Danowski to review the draft food service detailed testing report and the draft 2024-25 annual risk assessment report. The audit committee selected benefits as a detailed testing area for the school year. The internal audit reports and the corrective action plan for the food service will be approved by the Board of Education later tonight during the President's report. The meeting was adjourned at 6:23 p.m. Let's move into business with Ms. Bellotti.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. May I have a motion for the approval of budget transfer 4456 in the capital fund and 4457 and 4460 in the general fund? So moved.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of the 2024-25 contract as listed on the agenda? So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of the 2024-25 said park contracts as listed on the agenda? So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of the surplus items as listed on the agenda? So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of base bid GC3 for WJ Northbridge Corporation in the amount of $778,500 for the work to be done at the high school, Udall Middle School, and Beach Middle School in the kitchens? So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of the resolution related to the rejection of base bid GC1 and GC2 related to the same work? So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please, of approval of the following resolutions? Number one, receipt of the independent auditors' reports on food services, detailed testing, and the risk assessment update report dated December 10th, 2024. From Cullen and Danowski. Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. A motion of approval, please, for the recommendation that the Board of Education approves the corrective action plan in response to the internal auditors' reports on food service detailed testing submitted by the Assistant Superintendent for Business. Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion of approval, please, that the Board of Education approves the recommendations of the Special Education Committee of Students as listed in the district's backup and authorizes the district to arrange for appropriate services. Second. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Romanelli?
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. Shared a lot already this evening, so just want to kind of highlight, just a shout out to our music department. Really been enjoying visiting all different schools in the district this past couple weeks for our holiday concerts, stopping in classrooms, do some holiday read-alouds, and if you have not visited an elementary school at holiday time, you'll encounter someone with Christmas trees on a headband that are on springs, or a menorah sweater, whatever it may be. But everyone is definitely in the spirit, and just want to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday.
Yeah, myself as well. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. I do wish you all a happy and healthy holiday and New Year. No, I do have to call. We don't have any cards, but I'll ask anyway. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Okay, thank you. No, we did. They were all.
Hi, Patty McCabe. I'm the West Islip High School PTSA president. I am the mom of a high school senior and a student who is in her second year of college, who is now a junior thanks to all her AP and super courses that she took here at the high school. She went into the University of Tennessee with a scholarship, ready for college, with 27 credits. My child took a course over her winter break last year and started her second year at college as a junior. She is due to graduate an entire year early, saving this mom, and possibly her, a hell of a lot of money. And I know it's not only about the money, and that's fine, and I stand with Brendan. I am so proud of him speaking here tonight. Every student, he's done great work on our PTSA board. I've heard it since kindergarten, career and college ready, and he's right. Every student that graduates this school district, this high school, should be career and or college ready. And I agree with him, no matter what courses they take, you are supposed to make them ready with our guidance and with our help. I've been pretty involved, you guys have seen me around for a little while. I believe that. I believe we need to work together. I like the IB program. It's not for everyone. So I just scribbled a few things as we were talking here because I wasn't going to speak, but I think some things aren't coming across. I'm just going to say the timing is poor. The course catalog for next year should be out shortly. Our high school students, starting with our juniors, will be making their schedules shortly. This isn't the first time this has happened. Why don't we have these discussions earlier in the school year? We went through this last year. We went through this the year before when we took away our AP Environmental Science. We went through this last year, changing some courses. Why isn't this done as soon as the school year starts? Get this ready so when we get to this point, we don't have to say, oh, because last year I heard, oh, well, the students can change their schedule. Huh? Let's just get it ready. At the Education Committee on Tuesday evening, there was talk of working with local colleges to assign credit to some of our IB courses, college credit, but it hasn't been done yet. So how can we make these changes? And I understand it's not a done deal, but how can we even think about making these changes without actually having the entire framework in place? I heard great things about our expanding our CTE program with our automotive and our welding, and this is going to be great. And it should have started this year, and it didn't. It got delayed, or it's not happening. I don't know what it is, but it's not in place yet, as far as I've heard. Over the next 2 years, you have proposed sunsetting Advanced Placement Art, Super American History, which is Syracuse University Project Advance, Super English, AP Language and Composition, Super Economics, AP Bio, STEM Research, and each one of them had a suggested IB course to take in its place. It was stated earlier here tonight that administration isn't looking to get rid of AP courses. This says differently. I have a whole list here, and that's just over the next 2 years. Let's remember that over the past few years, English and Science honor classes have been removed. So let's talk about English. Our 11th and 12th grade students will only have a choice of Regents classes or IB courses. How is that fair? When students apply to colleges, those institutions look at their transcripts not only at their grades, but at the rigor of classes. So if a child can't or doesn't want to take an IB course, they don't have any other opportunity to take an advanced course with the chance to receive college credit. I've watched the past few years as classes are slowly being eliminated, and it seems to increase IB enrollment. This suggested plan greatly speeds up that plan. I implore all of you to keep all of our students in mind, because there are a lot of students that fall in the middle there, where AP and Super, yes, maybe we don't have to offer AP, Super, and IB in every course, but of course we're not cutting any IB courses. It's only talk to cut about the Super and the AP. I'll just go AP Environmental Science. There are a few people that weren't happy about that a few years ago. No, we're going to cut it, and we have IP Environmental Science. I believe that the next year, classes were bursting at the seams, but they weren't IP Environmental Science. It was the AP Chemistry classes that saw the increased enrollment. So the students that maybe would have taken the AP Environmental Science didn't jump into the IB, they went to AP Chemistry, they went to AP Bio. So I please, just please, think for all the students. Thank you.
All good discussion topics and good points for us to go back to the table and continue our discussion, so thank you so much. At this time, I would like to have a motion to adjourn to exec section, please, where the board will discuss negotiations, litigations, and personnel. Second. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Have a happy